Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody.
Hello, guys.
Welcome to the 84th Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm Milan Starcic with co-hosts Andrew Norman and Brandi S. And I'm so happy to be here with you guys today. Today's topic is self-examination. Can you share what this means to you, Andrew, and why you're happy to discuss this here today?
First off, good morning, Brandi. Milan.
Good morning.
Good to see y'all. Brandi, I missed you. We missed you.
Yeah.
Self-examination, man. Usually when we come up with these topics for these meetings, whether Milan throws them at me or I throw them at him, I'll give him maybe a rundown and he kind of chooses one and I give him some options. And he came up with this one and I was so excited when he did. And then I got nervous.
Yeah.
Then I got nervous because I started really realizing that, you know, we go into this thing, we're sitting here for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes, and we're talking about self-examination, and that requires self-examination. Right. And self-examination is the cornerstone of recovery, as I started kind of thinking about it, because it allows us to confront our underlying causes of our behaviors and our patterns. You know, without honest reflection, we talk about honesty all the time, guys. Without honest reflection, it's easy to fall back into those old cycles and our old ways, you know, so that honest self-reflection, and it's a constant job that we're doing with ourselves, man, because you know, we can really get back into those cycles of that, you know, denial, blame, avoidance, isolation, right? We can get back in that cycle quick. We can be doing so great for so well. And a little slip up, you know, a little something in the outside of recovery that messes with us. And maybe we decide not to bring that recovery process into it to help fix that problem, whatever it is, man. You know, we got to look inward. You know, it takes a lot of courage and humility to begin to recognize those triggers, right? And then not only recognize those triggers, but to take responsibility for our actions. You know, that's the backside of this thing, is taking responsibility for those actions, right? And begin to truly understand what kind of emotional, spiritual damage that we've done that to ourselves. You know, there's a lot of emotional baggage we come into that I'll keep it on me. Came in here with a lot of emotional baggage, a lot of spiritual wounds, right? Like it says in my literature that I was born a spiritual being. So I'm looking for that thing to tap into spiritually, man. And I have damaged that line of communication big time, you know. And it all starts with taking responsibility for who the hell I am. You know, yeah, like we're, you know, I came out and we said it, we're drug addicts, right? But the drugs are not the problem. You know what I mean? It's very, very, very important to understand that we can't sit here and blame drugs all day for why we're sitting here. Yes, that was the natural thing that we fled to get some relief from our struggles, but that wasn't the right way to do it. And we didn't have maybe the right people in our life to point us in the direction of doing something in a healthy way, right? My father's like, you know, we have an addictive personality, you got to watch out for that thing. Not like, hey, we got an addictive personality, we can really use that to be the president of the world. You can do whatever you want with that addictive personality if you use it for good. So a lot of that is spinning this whole thing into the healthy way of living, which for me has got to be recovery all day, every day. And a lot of that is self-examination. And then it's not only the self-examination, you don't just let it sit there, right? We have this step working process. Self-examination is step 4 in a nutshell, right? That personal inventory, we're taking that, you know, they might as well just call step 4 step self-examination, right? So I'm gonna pass it on to you, Miss Brandi, for you to expound on that. But that's kind of opens
wonderful.
It up. Thank you.
Yeah, that was. I related to so much of it. Like, and funny because in the meeting last night we read that pamphlet, The Triangle of Self-Obsession. And yeah, and you know, you think about it, like self-obsession and self-examination are the two different sides to it, really, because when I'm self obsession, like I don't care to examine myself. I don't care to look at what my part is really. I mean, my part, but what you're doing to me. And then I love this topic today because it is something that I think that like I never really practiced self-examination before recovery. And even then it was a slow like dive into it because I didn't, you know, it's like the onion, they peel it back. I didn't really know what I was going in for. And I think it's so important to do it because why not want to know these things about ourselves, you know? And it doesn't have to be bad stuff. Like people can get self-examination mixed up with like negative self-talk, like, you know, why'd you do that stupid shit, you know? But it's not, it's like growing from it, you know? What can I get from this? What can I do differently? You know, what was my part in it? Like that's a huge thing for it because I could blame anybody for whatever. Like I didn't grow up with the best examples either. I had epilepsy when I was a kid, so I was born with like feel bad for me, do this for me, and it's not my fault. It's not my fault. To being able to own that, and that's with a lot of self-examination, self-assessment, however you want to call it, self-reflection. Like it's so important because in the end, we can only control ourselves. And if we don't like a situation, then and you can't, you know, you gotta look inward and you get so much from it. When you can only control your own actions, the outcome isn't going to be bad, you know? And if it's not what you thought, then you just learn from it. So I love this topic a lot because I think it's a continuing thing we will always do. And if we don't, then that's self-obsession probably gets in there.
Love it. I love you,
Yeah.
Brandy. I love you, Brandy.
I love you.
And Milan, is that your stomach or is that one of your dogs growling?
That's my dog. She's
Okay,
like a sassy little.
I was making sure that wasn't your belly and you
like,
get something to eat. No, I
she's
knew.
like, Dad,
So funny.
Dad.
Yeah.
I know. And I'm like,
It's cute. It's cute.
she's staring me down like, you best come down here and play. And I'm like, no.
Oh, that's so
Podcast, I
funny.
think not.
I know. I'm like,
That's
can they
great.
hear that? I'm like,
Yeah.
Very slight. It's really cool though.
Yeah, I heard it too.
yeah, woo. Well, self-examination. I guess that if I look at myself, I love dogs a lot. Let's start with that. You know, I was looking at it, you know, self-examination and recovery. Like self-examination or introspection is a crucial process in recovery, enabling individuals to understand their thoughts, emotions, and behavior, ultimately fostering self-awareness and promoting long-term sobriety. It involves looking inward to identify patterns, triggers, and the underlying causes of addictive behaviors, allowing for more effective relapse prevention and personal growth. And, you know, so there's a lot of sides to this. You know, like, you know, I'm not sure when you guys were in treatment, but one of the things that we really looked at in treatment was our emotional sobriety and our prelapse triggers. You know, like the warning signs, the early warning detection. You know, and so I think that was something, you know, something that a lot of people who might, you know, might just come into the program and have a sponsor, their sponsors probably don't go over it like a treatment center does in that way. And for myself, I was super grateful for that because I just was like not paying attention to a lot of the stuff that was like, bing, there's me, like one day before I would use, bing, there's me a couple days before I would use. Like, what were the things that were happening over and over in the cycles of me saying no and yet still ending up using again? You know, like I was just talking with the sponsee this morning, and I was like, man, there was times where I was convinced I was like shutting it down for a week. I'm like, this is like, no, this week, it'd be like Tuesday. I had successfully gone through Monday and I'm like, boom, I got these 6 days. Somebody would go to the store and in my mind, I'm like, I could run to the dealers, come back, use, I could be high, I could pretend and I could probably make it to work tomorrow. And like, it was like that all ran through my head in like 15 seconds. Like by the time they turned the corner, I was driving the other way, hoping they weren't going to catch me, you know, like,
Yeah.
But it was like, what knocked me off the cart at that point, you know? And self-examination You know, I've said it on the show a million times. To me, awareness is my first step. Awareness is my first step for anything. And guess what? If I don't self-examine, there is no first step, you know? And
Yeah.
man, show me a step that really doesn't involve self-examination.
Right.
You know, I have to look at myself to know if I'm powerless and that my life's unmanageable. That requires an examination, you know? Like I have to look at the success or failure of my own ability to control my addiction to seek whether a power greater than myself. You know, in order to turn that will over, I have to identify what that will is.
Mhm.
You know, like, and it goes right down through all 12 steps. I mean, like, our freedom is brought to us in this program from us changing who we are from the inside. And if we're not looking inside accurately, we're getting nowhere. Like,
It's an inside job.
it is an inside job with, you know, with acceptance and surrender to that whole
Mhm.
universe, you know. And I don't know if somebody has told both of you that they love you today, but I
Dang it.
am. And I'm like, I like to be here
Love
with the
you.
two of you is like, it's like, woo, it's like a banana split with chocolate and extra caramel on the side. And I'm like,
Hashtag feelings mutual, man.
Yeah, that's
hashtag
right.
love you.
That is
I love you,
right. I
man. Are you
love
ready for
it.
this round of questions? You ready for this, Jank?
Si, senor El Capitano
All right,
Amor.
I'm gonna start
Let's
with
hear
you,
it.
Miss Brandy. We're coming to you,
Okay.
and then we'll get around to Milan. All right, you ready? So, what truths about your addiction did you avoid before coming to recovery, and what helped you finally face them?
What truths about my addiction? That I was an addict, first of all. You know, that I used to always say, like, you know, I tried my whole life not to be like my mom. And I denied to the very end that I was anything like that, or that I could be anything like that. And that, you know, whenever I used, it was I was in control. That's a huge one right there. That was in control of my using. The whole I could stop when I want to, and that was not that was never the fact at all. It just never didn't like fully affect my life until I got older, and the drugs got harder, of course. But I lied to myself in the way that I didn't, like I said, I didn't think that it was a problem. I didn't think that if anybody didn't know about it, then it doesn't affect them. That's a huge one. I went through that my last 10 years, like, well, if they don't know about it, you know, then it's not going to affect them. And that's such a lie. It affects them so much. It affects me even more than that too. But I had to really get real and admit that I have a problem. Like, I just how you were just describing, like, the thoughts in my mind are compulsive. Like, how can I use? Where can I get this? You know, and then turn around and say I don't out loud that I didn't have a problem. But then my constant thinking was, how am I going to get high? How am I going to deceive? And then, you know, and I lied to myself thinking I could live a double life like that. That I could, you know, it just I've accepted the fact that I'm an addict and I'm going to always use, even if I stop now, I'm going to start again. That's a lie. That's a total lie. And so today it's like I try not to lie to myself about stuff. If I haven't acknowledged it yet, I will get to it for sure. Because it doesn't do me no good. Doesn't do me no good to deny the truths that are right in front of me. You know, I am an addict. I have a compulsive disorder. And if I use drugs one time, I probably will not put them back down. I can't use recreationally. I can't use the one time, or I don't care if my doctor gives it to me. It doesn't mean it's okay because my addict brain doesn't know the difference in that. And and that's a huge thing. That's a huge thing. Like, I just had teeth pulled. I'm getting new ones soon though. But I went in and I was like, I would have never have said this before. I was like, I don't want narcotics. Just, I don't know if if you were gonna give them to me or whatever, because I always put that I'm allergic to narcotics. And I got the typical ibuprofen, Tylenol, which works good. You know, who knew? Because before it was like I wouldn't leave that dentist without something, you
Ooh,
know,
and something for
and
the ride home.
exactly. And so, you know, there's things
Pissed
like,
off.
right? There's things like that that I would have never I would be like, you have to have that. You have to. So probably thinking about even the biggest lie I told myself was, and maybe a two-part was that I wasn't an addict, and and then that I would never stop using, no matter what. Like, it's just who I
Okay.
am. It's in my
Yeah.
family. It's in my genes. Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna happen. And that's
Yeah.
probably the biggest lie I told myself, because today I don't want to use.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't, because, I love my recovery. I love everything I've learned, but I literally put that aside. I don't want to use
We
at
live
all.
clean because we want to today, Brandi.
Because we want to. Yes.
Because
Yes.
that is a big deal. That is a big deal.
Yes.
And you talk about it all the time, Brandi. You said like when you were growing up in your active addiction, you were like, when I had my daughter, I was waiting until she got old enough we could smoke
Yep.
together and all that, smoke weed together.
Yeah.
And then you think about, and then when you say that, I can see it on your face how sick you knew you were.
Yes.
Right?
I know. It's almost hard to say. Yeah.
It's literally when you start talking about it, it's like you can't believe that those words are coming out of your mouth as you're saying it
Yep.
in a meeting level, right? And that's where our therapy comes in. That's our antidote, right?
Well, that's when my disease was like, wouldn't that be fun? Like, don't you miss that? And
Yeah.
I stewed on it for 2 days before I finally had to just share it in a meeting. Like, it's not like I want to use, but my addiction was like reminiscent sweetly to me. Like, wouldn't that have been fun?
Well, let the power of it go. Let the power of it go.
And I didn't think about it for 2 weeks until we were talking about something. I was like, oh my God, I have not thought about that one time since I shared it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bro,
yeah.
Honest sharing is the antidote to our disease.
And I would have never done that before either. That's probably another
Crazy.
thing I lied to myself about. I
Crazy,
lied about,
man.
I didn't share what I really felt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 It's very important, guys. Listen up, guys. All right. You ready, Milan?
Yes. Repeat más despacio, por favor.
What truths for absent-minded Milan about your recovery did you avoid before coming to recovery, and what helped you finally face them?
What truths about my recovery?
About your addiction. Excuse me.
Oh, okay.
What truths about your addiction did you avoid before coming to recovery? I'm an idiot.
I was like, I avoided anything.
You're like, what?
I had no truth of recovery.
Hold on. Can we take a time out on this question?
I'm like, I don't think Brandi answered it all.
I'm so sorry, bro.
No. I'm just
what truths silly. About your addiction?
Yeah. So, okay. First of all, I never acknowledged how bad it was. Even when I knew I was like killing myself, I never said it like I'm an addict or like, it was really weird. It was, and then every other health problem I had was caused by something, not my addiction, for sure. Even if they were all basically based off my addiction, like even spinal problems of just like being awake so long, I'm fatigued and hurting my body in so many ways. And gosh, like I wasn't honest with anybody around me, let alone myself about it. I considered my life manageable. I thought I was powerful for a long time, especially like, man, once I did that 20 months, I was like, well, man, I could do 20 months. I'm like Rocky, like, I got this shit. And then it was just like, when they say it's progressive, it is absolutely progressive. And the problem is that like, as someone who was trying to hold the tiger at bay, it's like, the second you turn your eyes from that tiger, it's taking a swat right at your heart. Like it's not like I'm just gonna come back and it's gonna be real nice. It's like boom, I'm gonna try it. Holy shit, what happened in 5 months? Like where am I? And just like that. And yeah, like I mean, I don't really know what everything felt like a lie at the end. Everything felt like a lie. So, like, I mean, I feel that I had no clue through my addiction what my intentions were. I had no clue who I was because I was either, lying to you or people pleasing to you to try and compensate for my absence. It was one of the two or both simultaneously. So, like it's been a real process of rediscovering me and what I want. since then, and what I do or don't have to do as a social
Mm.
human being. Because when you people please for a long time, people really get used to it. You
Yeah, they
know,
do.
yeah, they do,
Yeah, they do.
and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I mean, geez, for what I
Yeah,
put them through, that's a pretty shitty compensation package.
yeah,
You know,
right,
hi, we're going to take your
right.
husband, wife, son, father, and you're going to get a trip to the movies and whatever you want. Like whatever.
When you
Like
say it like that, yeah, that's a radio.
yeah,
It's so
it
true,
is.
though.
It
So
is.
true.
It was shit compensation for what they had went through. I'm going to leave that one
Hmm.
there because I think
It's
that
beautiful.
I just don't. My brain is kind of like I think that's pretty much everything.
Your brain
This
is
topic
amazing.
is so big. The topic
It
is so
is.
big too.
It is.
There's so many elements and angles to it. I love it really.
It is. It was crazy. I think I gave you like two options in Milan on that one specific day, and you hit self-examination, and I was like, yes, and then I went, damn, like that's a lot. We're gonna have to get into this. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. Though. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is going to go a lot of ways. And that's why I didn't
Yeah.
clarify which way it's going to go because now all of our questions are going to go different ways.
That's perfect.
Yeah. I like
That's why
that
we
though.
do
I
this.
like
That's why
it.
we do
Yeah.
this. So yeah.
Right?
So what truth about my addiction did I avoid before coming to recovery, and what helped me finally face them? The biggest thing was that I could not come to terms with that I had no control. Like that the actual I thought I had control up until I was forced to understand I had no control. I had no control over this thing, man. I had no, just like I'm
Mm.
trying to lean into not having control over my recovery, I'm trying to lean into this surrender process and I'll surrender this thing. I had no control in my active disease. I had literally no control over my actions. My disease was doing all the decision making for me, based on all those transactional relationships. And so, I would compare myself to others who I thought were worse than me. So I would compare myself out of this thing before I got in here, because this, bro, if you need, look, here's was my thought process going into this before I realized I was a drug addict. Like if you're a grown ass person, you need to go sit up in a church somewhere and drink coffee to listen to about your problems and like on your own time. Like what that is not me. You know what I mean? It was not me. I'm like, what, I remember a couple of times getting in trouble with the law and having to go to these meetings. I would sit in the back of the class and laugh, like be like, this is what who are these people and why? And the guy at the front would always be all excited, and then he would sign our papers at the end. And that was my whole thing is like, if I could get to him before the end of the meeting, I was trying to get him to sign my paper and get the hell out of there, man.
Mm.
I wasn't hearing anything. I wasn't hearing anything. I was just wrapped up. Right. Um, so when I saw people worse than me still going in their active addiction, it was like, hey, I guess I'm not that bad. Right. When I saw other people around me in their active addiction that were worse than me, but still handling their business, or so I thought, right. I don't live with these people, but
Mm.
when I did do dealings with them, they would have their car or they would have their money, but little did I know they were in jail all weekend,
Yeah.
I didn't really know the other times I didn't see them that they were really bad off and they were coming to the point where I was getting ready to be at too. So I avoid, on top of that, I was avoiding the truth about all the damage I was causing my family,
Mm.
my friends and my family and my loved ones. And, I would justify my behavior, in an unjust way. I mean, I would just justify anything because I was a sick person. I was sick. I was sick. So, deep down, I knew that it wasn't true, but like denying all that shit was a lot easier than actually coming to terms with, hey, I'm a drug addict and this is why. I got to explain myself to like, hey, mom, it's not your fault. Hey, dad, it kind of is your fault. Like, I don't want to go through that process. And what is that process? No one told me that these meetings and these rooms were how you understand and how you can adapt your life to these programs and this step work, right? No
Mm.
one ever tells you that. Even addicts coming in here, there's not a way to explain that to them if they're not ready. Like
Yeah.
if somebody's not ready to hear this message or to adhere to this thing in one way or another, they can come in here and run their mouth all they want. But if they're not ready to do some honest inward looking at themselves and who they are, bro, good luck. And I just implore you, man, if you're thinking about being in this process, look, read these books. I would say read the books before anything. Read
Mm.
the main book, read the basic text, read it.
I'd say read the book with someone else.
With someone else is even better because
Mhm.
I did this where
And a highlighter.
and a highlight or get the highlighter
No, you buy
paint.
the 5-pack at
No,
Walmart of the
no,
Sharpie highlighters.
no.
Yeah.
No, have gone way beyond that now. They have paint buckets full of highlighter juice, and
Yes.
Brandi just
Boom.
goes just dunks that thing in there. It's got to be big enough for basic
Muy
text though.
importante.
So like deep down, you gotta come to the forefront with a lot of that denial that and all that blame you've been pushing outwards. You really gotta. It gets uncomfortable, and we're not on drugs anymore. So then all these feelings that we're feeling, we think they're facts, but they're not.
Mm.
And everything passes, man. Everything passes. This process of you getting into recovery, all that uncomfortability getting in here passes, right? You have to understand that like our bodies don't want to be drug addicts. Our bodies weren't born like some of us, whether our mothers were using in the womb or whatever, that's a little bit of a different story, but still we weren't born wanting to be drug addicts. Like our bodies
Yeah,
weren't
yeah.
naturally made to like go get drugs, right? And so once we stop, like our bodies, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it's like fuck, I like this. They start seeing things different, tasting things different, and things become proud of things that you didn't think were a big deal at all in active addiction. Like I
You're
was
just
proud of
speaking my
stuff.
recovery right now. Like that's exactly, I
Bro,
didn't
you
know
get
I
so
wanted.
proud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bro, like making like being proud to be able to make the dinner tonight, like and be proud of how you set it up at the table, like little fucking things that like normal people are proud of. This
Yeah.
world is not all
Yeah.
about every night we're gonna have a fireworks show out here. You know what I mean? Like it's not all about the yeah ups and downs. It's about that serene 6 or 7, man. And we know what serenity comes when we trade expectations for acceptance.
Yep.
All
Mm.
Yeah.
day I'm gonna be with it, man. I'm gonna be with it. So
Yeah.
I think I answered my own
I
question.
love that. That was great, Andrew.
That's
Brandy,
great.
you got a question for me?
I do.
I
I
bet
do.
you do.
Okay. I do.
Or
I got a
should I
couple
say
of them because
Friedel? Yodelay.
Friedel.
Freedom!
Okay, so after a time of regularly practicing self-examination, like a daily inventory is where I was going with it too. How do you
That
address
pen.
any unhealthy patterns?
Well, okay, it's really come to my attention that this is not a program of self improvement. This is a
Mm.
program of surrender.
Bring it.
And, so when I'm identifying them now, first of all, I'm going to make amends if amends are still owed, sometimes on air. Um, and I'm going to try to surrender them, like and one of the things that brought to my attention in the last week was that I was kind of stuck in a rut of really in anxiety and fear in this one situation in my life. And it was really brought to my attention by my sponsor. He's like, dude, I would be totally insane if I was you right now. Like the fact that you're coping with what you're coping with, he's like, you know, um, he's like, you've got to give some gratitude for
Mm.
what you've already received on it. And I wasn't. So it's like,
Yeah.
even if you don't think you've got something, you got to look at everything way down deep. And so one of the things that I, started to do is when I'm walking my dogs by myself, I like start itemizing all the little fractional things in my life that I'm grateful for. And I say out loud while I'm walking by myself in beautiful nature what I'm grateful for. And even if it's just little bits of something, like even if I'm
Mm.
completely dissatisfied on that thing, I'm really grateful that I have some of that. Like I'm grateful I have some patience. I'm grateful that I'm not angry all the time. I'm grateful for those moments of peace from anxiety. And so it's starting with gratitude and surrender is my new plan of attack which means
Love
I'm
that.
actually surrendering. So I'm not actually attacking.
Surrender.
I love
boy.
that. I gotta say too, I love that when you bring up your dogs, because when we did that podcast last time, every time I take my dog to the bathroom now, I'm like, don't get frustrated that he has to go twice, Brandi.
Boom.
I've been doing that shit too. I do that shit too.
I was
Bro,
like, maybe I just need to chill out a little bit. How am I feeling right now?
keeps recovery
great
keeps
chance
all
to
that shit on
pray.
the forefront.
It really is. It was, yeah. So I could tell you that's something silly. It really does stay with me. Made me like
Yeah.
think about like maybe I need to think, let the guy go. He's old.
Pet time is a great time to go
Mhm.
into gratitude or prayer.
Yeah.
Like it really is, because
Hey,
like they think you're sharing like your words with them, and they're all like, "Wow, that sounds really thankful. I must be a great dog."
have you ever wondered? You ever wonder why God did not allow pets to speak? To teach us
Man.
that we don't gotta run our mouths, right? Like they are such
Mhm.
humble and like they have all these spiritual principles that we learned that we want. Like
Unconditional love.
Right.
They have the
Right.
unconditional love piece down, and they will never say a word, right? Like God put them in our lives to teach us these things. I'm telling you, man.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Nice
I do
one, brother.
too. I do too.
Capitano Amor strikes
Amor.
again.
Amor.
All right. You want me to repeat it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm
After
consistent.
after a time of regularly practicing self-examination, how do you address any unhealthy patterns?
That's a great question. And it's only after that self-examination that I'm going to be in a healthy spot to be able to do that, but
Mhm.
we hit on and I'm kind of bringing it back to the step 4 and then the step 10, right? This is really about step 4 and step 10. Like I can relate it to all the steps. I actually did have a rundown of how this like relates to each step. But
Mhm.
step 4 and step 10, and step 10, this step work is another version of like God's love letters and God's love testing to me, right? Like he's putting me through this. It's like a love test. And man, so far, I've been doing good with it because I've stayed clean, right? The most important thing here is staying clean. We don't have to get so technical with this shit, Brandi. Like if I make a
Yeah.
mistake, I can step 10 that bitch immediately. Milan does it during
Yep.
the fucking podcast, like right on, like on
Yeah.
cue. He'll stop the podcast and apologize to Coulter, and he feels better.
Yeah.
And he feels better, man. And why are we gonna store that shit in the garage upstairs and like try to go find it later? It's not necessary. It's not necessary. We can make this thing so easy. And us sitting up here talking about it will make it easier for us too, because
Mhm.
we can sit there and think about it all day. And that's where my head is like a trap. When I get stuff caught in there, if I don't have a step process or some kind of outlet that I know I've been able to process it and unload it properly, it just gets stuck in there, right? It
Yeah.
gets stuck
Yeah.
and it
That's me
gets
too.
right. It gets overwhelming, and then we give into that overwhelming feeling where it's like, F it. Like I don't want to deal with it, or you just do it haphazardly, or you just do it on a whim, and which is most times is okay to get by. But like, what do we really want to do going forward? Do we want to grow? Or we just want to tread water? Or do we want to fly in this process, right? Do we
Yeah.
want to get out of that water? We want to
Yeah.
fly. Do we? Do you just want to
Yeah.
doggy paddle barely, or do you want to
Yeah.
like
Well, we're
you
not
want
just
to
marking boxes for sure.
right? You want to put your
Yeah.
dragon wings on, bitch, and like fly out of the pool and like be looking at what's going on above, right? From
Yeah.
above. And that's what this whole process allows us to do, is it tells us to take a step back and be like, all right, whether one of my people, y'all, one of my network is coming at me saying, hey, you're doing something sideways, or it's myself being healthy enough to pinpoint something that's coming out of me that's negative. Man, it's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing because people see you working a program in your life, man. When you got some step
Mm.
work in your life, man, and shit comes across your table, like Brandi, some people will do something to me and I'll be in a meeting and I'll love the shit out
Hmm.
of them. Look, you talk about
You
killing with kindness.
will.
Talk about killing with
Yeah.
kindness. I kill them with love.
Hmm.
Not kindness. I kill them with
But
love.
the difference is that you mean it though. You
I
do.
mean it.
You
I
really
mean it,
do. Even if what they did was completely sideways,
bro.
you mean it. And
The
that's what
more
some
Capitano
people don't
Amor.
understand that.
the more and more they do
Yep.
wrong to me, the more and more I hit them with love. And it's like that's the most freeing thing I can do, man, is forgive that person and
Yeah.
love that person. And you know, if I'm saying that I love somebody, we talked about this in the last program, Milan, forgiveness is the final stage of love. It's the final form of love.
Mm,
If I can forgive you, I love you
yeah.
because I accept who you are. I accept what you mean to me as a person, whether I have worked on my attributes that I didn't see so nice of myself that I see in you, or now I'm going to work on them because I don't like what I'm seeing in you, but I know I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I love you. And I love you. Might not like you right now, but I love you. I'll pass it.
That was good.
Captain.
That was
More.
good. I love it.
I get
Yeah.
off on tantrums, man. I get off, man. I'm sorry.
Well, that's the beauty of
Tangents
this
and
right here.
tantrums.
That's the
Tangents
beauty
and
of this.
tantrums.
It's great, man. This is therapy for us, man.
Yeah.
Right?
Come on,
I
free
believe
that
that.
Dell. Free that Dell.
All
Free
right.
the Dell.
Free
Free
that
that
Dell.
Dell. Free that Dell.
I'm gonna have to make a shirt.
I want
So,
one too.
you know, right. I know. I love making shirts.
How free do you want to be?
All right. I love that sweatshirt.
She made one.
So,
already.
I did. I love it. It's tie-dye, which is my favorite. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with that.
On the back, it says, it has to say surrender is the secret to serenity.
I was going to put on the back, keep coming back.
Yeah, I guess.
I guess. So, you know, with self-examination, doing it regularly, because that's what I've been taught in this program to do. And not only just taught to do it, like we were saying, like not just mark boxes, but like do it with the intent to grow from it and to know about myself. But also, I like Milan, how you're saying, like also I need to recognize the stuff that I have been able to accomplish. And when I start to see an unhealthy pattern, you know, I've learned, like, I think this is like a bitter love-hate thing. Like, I acknowledge it, because the more I acknowledge something, the less I can ignore it. And it's like it kind of gets put in this little category in my brain of like, all right, I got to bring attention to this. I don't want to do like this anymore. And, you know, and in that way, it can be an unhealthy for me, is like, you know, I got control issues, but in a loving way. Okay. Like in a loving way. Like I got to realize that just because I do something a certain way doesn't mean everybody does. It doesn't mean, like, no matter what the thing is, it could be sweeping the floor, you know, but like how we look at things. And I find that I can overthink about stuff, like, and I can make it bigger than it needs to be in my head. But really, when I take the minute to break it down and I just look at my action, because that's all I can control, it makes a big difference. Makes a big difference. So when I find that this, like, what's unhealthy, I take everything out of the scenario except for my actions and just try to like look and see what I could do differently. And that will probably make a difference. And if it doesn't, it's not my business to dwell on it more or to examine it, because it's obviously not me. And I think that being able to, you know, because I would have never self-examined before, and this program has definitely taught me that so much. So I wouldn't have never recognized the unhealthy parts at all. It would have been the unhealthy parts would have been the justified parts. Like, well, this is why. But to be able to do that today, I feel like my growth could be limitless. And one thing I love about the 10 step, just talking about that, I look at it as like a daily way of tattling on myself to myself, because I can make amends today. You know, nobody really wants to have to be in a scenario where they have to, but I can do it. I have the ability to do that today. But if I can do an exercise that comes from inside that I can help me from not doing it, then that's a big one for me too. So being able to acknowledge the unhealthy instead of being like, well, that doesn't sound fun, so I'm not gonna work on that. Let's go to what's really fun. Like, what am I doing really good? I got to be able to acknowledge all of it in order for it to go to where I want it to go. And also, I think a good way for me to deal with it is knowing that it doesn't matter how long I've been clean. If this was the beginning of my recovery, or we're talking 10 years down the road, it's okay to self-examine and it not be perfect. I mean, obviously it's not going to be, but like, we're growing, we're learning. If I didn't have things that I had to address, like, what am I really doing differently in my life then? And so acknowledgement is a huge way for me to acknowledge unhealthy patterns. Acknowledgement is a good way to acknowledge. You know what I'm trying to say?
And then you take out insurance. And then you take out insurance.
Yeah. Yep. That's what my sponsor was saying to me. She's like, you need to take out insurance on your recovery.
Oh, we know your sponsor.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
and
why I said
that was true. When she first said that to me, I was like, oh, okay. She's like, you got to make it hard to use.
She's a badass, man.
I certainly like making amends better than being a dick.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I really do. Like,
so
if I had to look in the mirror, I'd rather look at myself saying sorry than being a dick.
And if you could say that to yourself going into it, it'll do you be better.
I had to really acknowledge the fact that I ruined the word sorry.
Oh yeah.
Years ago, for me to come in, and be like, I need to make an amends. Like I need to make something right, and because that's different. And it's
almost a bad word. It's almost a bad word. It's almost like saying like saying fuck you. You might as well just say fuck you to him. Like saying sorry to somebody is there's nothing behind it.
Yep.
Roll your eyes. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
I love you, Brandi.
So that's my answer. I love you too.
So this question I got here, I designed for any newcomers listening. I know that there's a couple newcomers in my area who started listening to the program, and I thought, you know what? I would like to make sure that we're doing home. That's right. That's right. I want them to feel like, hey, we love you.
We need you.
We're really grateful you're here.
Yes.
And anything that we can do or say that gives you just a glimmer of relief in your day, I hope we're part of that. And
love you.
Before the program, I had no tools for accurate self-examination. How has the program given you the tools for self-examination, Andrew? And can you describe these tools in your own words for the newcomer?
Yeah. So to those newcomers listening, welcome home, guys. Welcome home. This is a beautiful journey of getting your life back, and this is not an insurmountable task because this is a just for today program. You know what I mean? The most important thing is staying clean just for today. And if you can stay clean just for today, that's enough. You know, my literature tells me that a day clean is a day one, and it's a miracle if never even followed by another one. So if you come in here one day clean and you never have another clean day in your life, bro, you had a miracle day in your life, right? So let's get a couple together and things start changing for you, you know. But the self-examination thing, in a broad spectrum, like it's really, really hard to examine yourself with honesty when you come into this program. A lot of it is just sitting down and thawing out, man, and stop using whatever you got to do to hang on and stop using drugs, man, and get those chemicals out of your body and thaw out a little bit. That's what you need to do as a newcomer. Right. And just try to hear messages, try to get a little uncomfortable in these meetings. Right. And try to latch onto something that you hear that you can relate to, which I promise you, if you do listen, you will find something that you will relate to. In any meeting you go to, you're going to find some kind of message in there. But through working that, so as I've come into recovery, self-examination, obviously very, very vital. You know, I work the steps, and through working those steps, I can learn to take an honest look at myself for the first time ever, right? For the first time ever, you know, my actions, my motives, my fears, my patterns. And it's not about blaming myself. It's not about self-blame. You know what I mean? It's not about self-blame. It's about growth.
Yeah.
Right. We start reading into this literature and these books that we have. Like, we'll keep it on just the basic text. That shit tells me I am not responsible for what I did in my disease. If you're a newcomer and you haven't heard that line yet, that's why this is another thing. Look, welcome home. All that shit you did up until today, you're not responsible for it. Think about that, man. It took me maybe 6 months to realize that was what that line meant, and that line did pertain to me. You know, I was so out there at the beginning. I couldn't really understand and retain information properly where I could relate it to myself, right? Let alone read them and understand what I'm talking about. You know, so as I grow and I realized, you know, after that 6 months, I realized, hey, I'm not responsible for any of that shit in my disease. And I'm sitting there the whole 6 months going, how am I going to make up for all the shit I've done? Like, and all the people I've hurt, lied, cheat, steal, whatever it is, all the bridges I burn. And how is anybody gonna take me seriously now?
Mm,
And
mm,
it seems an insurmountable thing, but when I read that one line, I'm not responsible for my disease. But now look, I'm gonna empower myself with examination, step processes, step 4, step 10, all that stuff. My recovery is my responsibility now. Right. And that's where we get our lives back. That's where we get our lives back. The people who have written us off, if they love you, they'll see you that you came back.
mhm.
Not that just, hey, he's off drugs. No, you came back.
Yeah.
You came back. You're like this is not about just simple abstinence from drugs, man. When you were using drugs, I'll keep it on me. When I was using drugs, a lot more went into it than the simple just getting up and I have a table full of the exact amount of drugs allotted for that day. It don't work like that. It doesn't magically appear in the box. I did a
Mm-mm.
lot of work, a lot of things to get my daily allotted amount of drugs because I was so motivated by the fact that I didn't want to feel like I was going to die. Right. When we don't have our drugs, we feel like we're literally going to die.
Yeah.
And so we don't make rational decisions. You know what I mean? We don't make rational decisions. The only way we're going to realize what our part in this thing is if we examine ourselves honestly. You know, it allows us to break us from the lies that we told ourselves in active addiction. We were lying to ourselves constantly in active addiction.
Constantly. Yeah.
It allows us to see who we've been, who we are, who we're becoming. Without it, we'll be stuck. Without self-examination, you're stuck in mud, man. You're stuck in quicksand. Right. With it, we open the door to freedom, healing, spiritual process. This and just one day at a time. We don't got to do this one day at a time. Don't look at this coming in here as like, hey, I got to be 90 years old and be clean. No, what you worried about
Today.
that for? Today.
Yeah.
You got one foot in yesterday, one in tomorrow. You're pissing all over today, man. You need to stay
Yeah.
in right now.
That's funny.
So I'll pass that to you, Brandi.
Yeah.
Love you.
No
Great
future
question,
tripping,
Milan.
right?
No future tripping, man.
Yeah. All
Before the
right. Hit me.
program, I had no tools for self examination. How has the program given you, Brandi, tools for self examination? And can you describe these tools in your own words for the newcomer?
Great question. So tools, first of all, tools are so important. I always thought it was really cheesy, like your tool belt. What do you mean? But really, you reach for them more than you realize. And when I first came in here and had to self-examine, I remember being in treatment, which was one of the most amazing things I could have ever done for myself and my recovery. And I remember them writing a list of like on the board of like what a person in active addiction does, like manipulation, lying, all this stuff. And that's when I realized that somebody had, before I read the book, someone wrote a book about me. And I checked up, I'm like, oh, that's all me. But I had found a way to, during my, active addiction, to convince myself that that's how my husband was being with me. And so I had to start really from the delusions. Like I need to see it for what it was and not just yeah, okay, I used and lied and now I want to do things to be clean. Like I needed to see it for what it was in order to know how it could be different and how I wanted it to be different because I didn't think it could be. I didn't think that these 12 sentences, the steps are going to keep me clean until I started using them and I started doing the steps. So that the biggest thing is to be able to look at your part. I remember also in treatment, my counselor said, when I realized I only had to worry about my actions, like I was a huge weight off of me. I don't have to worry because I'm a future tripper and I'm always, trying to make sure everybody's, got what they need and stuff like that, especially when I'm running on guilt and shame. And she said to me, she's like, if somebody came in here and like smashed my head on the table and she was a little bit vulgar and I stabbed them. She's like, it wouldn't matter what they did to me. It's what I did to them. It doesn't matter if they did it to me. It's my action. And that really was a huge one for me, and my side of the street, like anything, it's like, what are my actions in it? And it can be hard to really see what our actions are and like, because we justify them so easily, in active addiction. I know I did. I justified all of my actions, even if it was using drugs. I had a reason why I had to use. But being able to just see that part to it and to be able to, speak something out loud that is uncomfortable because when it comes to making amends and being able to, like, there's a lot of self-examination before you do stuff like that. That's why the steps are in order. But to be able to just like get out of everybody else's opinion about you and just speak what you are, what your truth is. Even if it's like, hey, I'm clean today and I'm grateful, but I feel like shit. That's important. Speaking that out loud is important. People go into meetings and they think, and I went through the same thing, thinking like, well, this isn't drug related, but it's really weighing on me. So I don't need to share this in here. Share it all. I've shared about a shitty neighbor, teeth getting pulled, my dog. I mean, all of it. And the other stuff. And it took me a while
gravel
to do
driveways.
that fucking gravel driveways, man, that bitch. and I had to share about it. But for a long time, I didn't share about that kind of stuff because I was like, I think also I had wanted everybody to think that like everything was great. So the honesty, I think sharing about stuff is like, I'm a big verbal processor. So that's another way I find out stuff about myself, just share about it. And when you do, and you hear it out loud, it's different. It's a different way of looking at it, because it's scary. It can still be scary. And I'm not saying just because you've got X amount of time, it ends up not being. There are things that can be uncomfortable and can be new to talk about. We talked about here one time about, I think it was acceptance. And I had talked about sugar, and like, I joke about it, but like, they could be serious conversations I don't like to talk about because I'm not the same size I was 20 years ago, but I'm 20 years older. So, but I talked about it. And so I think that's a huge tool I shared, so even if it's, you're having a hard day and maybe you didn't think about using, share it because it makes a huge difference. It really, really does. And with that, I can examine, because I can't ignore it if I'd acknowledged it and I've said it out loud. So now it's action time, like how much more do I really want to hold on to this unhealthy part? Because I know, I got and it, like Andrew was saying, if you got even one day clean, if you go without using, like, that's a huge miracle. What more else can you accomplish?
That's a war
really?
one. That's a war one, man.
Yeah. Like, I should be able to like climb Mount Everest because I don't use drugs and alcohol anymore after 30 years. I mean, I'm disabled, so I can't, but mentally,
Yeah. Well,
so but
straight up.
sharing is a huge tool. It really is, because we may have different stories, but there are so many similarities in how we feel, and look for them and identify them.
Isn't it crazy, Brandi, when you share something like that and you come out and it's like you're really nervous to share and it's like, hey, no one's gonna be able to relate. And then once you get done sharing, you see the room and then you see how the rest of the meeting goes, you go, God, that not only helped me, but you actually might have given somebody the courage to share that same experience that they went through, or a newcomer or whatever. So it's not like that. That's how beautiful this thing is, man. You're not only going on there spewing your guts out to like a therapist, but a non-therapist room, right? Like it's because we're not therapists that this works, right?
Well, who
because
are
we're
we to
actually
decide what everybody needs before we even know
Exactly.
them?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and if you think
Exactly.
about
It's
it, I'm sure
beautiful.
each of us in here have felt in a moment, rather the beginning of our recovery or before we got into recovery, that I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I
Oh,
can get
yeah.
clean.
Multiple times.
And then, and then to sit there, and as much as this is said all the time, but I really feel like if I can get clean, and
You
if I
can.
could want to be clean, I know someone else can. So like, if you are doubting at all, if you can do this because it seems big and scary, you can. You really, really can.
Yeah.
And
One little step at a time.
One step at a
yeah,
time.
one little step,
Pun
exactly.
intended.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just try to be better than the day
Yes.
before. Just try to be
Yes.
better than the
Yeah.
day before. Don't try to be better than anybody else. Just be better than you.
Yeah. That's why the newcomer is the most important person in the
Absolutely.
meeting.
We
Yeah.
can't keep it unless we give it to them.
Yeah. It's a great question.
So before the program, I had no tools for self-examination. How has the program given me tools for self-examination? And can I describe these tools in my own words for the newcomer? So, I think that for the last 17 years of my addiction, I did not understand the allergy of the body and the obsession of the mind. And in fact, I don't even think I understood the obsession of the mind till about 3 weeks ago, till someone actually fully clarified it for me. But so for any newcomer, right? The allergy of the body is the fact that once whatever we're addicted to, we put into our body, we can't stop consuming it. That's our allergy. And you anybody who is not an addict will be like, what do you mean? I don't have to do that. And that's why you're not an addict.
Exactly.
Like, but
Yeah, that's the
the
difference.
obsession of the mind, I used to always associate with my mind obsessing about drugs. But the obsession of the mind is actually that we're so self-obsessed we think we can control it. And that is the crazy thing. So entering into this program, we're literally deconstructing ourselves from the most selfish being in the history of our universe, and figuring out how we can stop that, or how we can surrender all that self-obsession, because we obviously sucked at control. Like, and somebody watching this podcast as a newcomer, you didn't show up because you were hitting a home run on control. Like,
Yeah.
like
Right.
it's not like, hey, everybody run the bases, here we go. Like, that's
This
Control
isn't-
did
this
not
isn't-
get you here.
This isn't how to invest my millions of dollars.
We're skidding into rock bottom, not home plate. Like, and so, like the first things that have to start popping out in the program for self-examination is honesty. Like, we have to actually go, holy shit, like, this is really
Yeah, that's a
who I
good,
am.
yes.
This is the control that I've lost, and then we have to like take that self-examination and be open-minded that we have to change. And then we have to be willing to go ahead with that change. And it starts by us surrendering that fight. Surrendering our ego in that situation, that we are powerful, that we have any control over it. And so that surrender is like the first step of honest, like self-examination leads to that surrender, because we're like, hey, if we're actually see ourselves as powerless, which we obviously are, right? Like, we obviously are. If we are where we are, then we got to let that fight
Yeah.
go. We got to let that fight go, because why? Because we're never going to win it. We're never, ever going to win it. So, and that's like the Jedi mind trick of the program. To anybody who's out there, I don't fully understand it, but man, when you let that fight go, you gain a lot of real estate right here in your head. And that real estate in your head is freedom. And Friedel
Yep.
knows how free you can be.
Yep, that's right.
And
That's right.
and then we're able to start going forward. And in step 4, you're going to get talked about a moral inventory, fearless and thorough moral inventory. And the thing is that it's the moral inventory that will help you fear less. Like, you've got to go in and you've got to take that honesty, put a little ball cap of humility on it, and use the tools that they talk about. And they take all of your resentments, the things that are keeping you sick, and it down in a beautiful format of how to take A and turn it into what you're doing to create that
Yeah.
pain. And once you can identify through self-examination what that pain is, then we know what we need to give away and what we need to change in our lives. But without accurately knowing that, we're just like fish swimming, like, let's get straight. Let's change our
Yeah.
lives. Like, we don't know where we're
Bruh.
going. Yeah, high five to nowhere.
High
Yeah.
five to nowhere. That was good.
But and so it's really about us starting to figure out what it is that's keeping us sick. And
Yeah.
and there is no getting to that source without self-examination.
I love it.
Okay, I'm leaving
Yeah.
that there.
Is it my turn to ask a question?
It
You only
certainly
ready.
is,
You only ready for my
Capitano.
zingers today. I got some zingers today.
I
Y'all ready
know,
for
All
this?
right, all right, all right.
So, in what ways has self-examination helped me change how I help you change how you treat others? That deals with
Ooh.
internal awareness and external behavior. So, in what ways has self-examination helped me change how I treat others?
That's a good one. You know, it goes back to, which I didn't practice until I really looked at myself, treat people the way you want to be treated.
And
And I mean, they teach us that in like kindergarten, right? But
Do
I
unto
think that,
others as you would have done
yeah,
unto you.
yeah. And but you know, I think going through shit and like the whole process of addiction and ruining everything and putting, you know, piece by piece back together. I can see with my own self-reflection, other people, where they're coming from, you know, like you know, I would try to, examine other people, but it helps me understand why maybe somebody's acting a certain way. And then in return, it helps me, treat them like a human being instead of how maybe they're acting, which cannot, resemble a human being sometimes. But, you know, when I treat other people, it's because I know myself more now, and I know my flaws. Doesn't mean I always catch them before they come out, but I know them. And in turn, I can give someone that same respect. You know, I can respect somebody, because I can do an examination of myself, because it's not like everybody's wrong and I'm right, you know? And so to be able to look at it like that, like, and to know myself, I don't have to worry so much about, treating people a way that I think that it would, like, not benefit me, but, you know, I dealt with a lot of guilt and shame. So today I can give me freely. I can show parts of myself that maybe even aren't comfortable, and I can open up about stuff and be honest about stuff. I feel like today I could give, I like to say suggestions, not advice, to other people, because I've been able to examine it myself and been able to, like, you know, like this is only suggestion. Like when you tell someone something in this program, especially, it's about, well, this is what I did, you know, and I think that that can help other people relate in so many ways. So to be able to have relationships with people now that I know how to look inward, and I know that this is an inside job, and like I got to start with myself, but I don't even can't even touch anyone else's. I got to start with myself. It I feel like there's another part of me that is here now. Like how you were saying, Andrew, on I think one of the questions before was, you know, like that like your family's got you back, like you're back. But I feel like we come back, and I can't speak for everybody, but from majority of what I see, we come back better
yeah,
and more equipped.
for
And with
sure.
that, we can the ripple effect of it, everybody they get the benefit from it, you
You
know?
get the benefit of the doubt back that way.
Yes, exactly. And so for me to be able to practice self-examination and acknowledge things that I know I need to work on, and I need to work on them for myself, you know, not necessarily because someone doesn't like something about me. That's not self-examination. That, you know, something I know that I can grow from. They get a part, you know, like I'm a totally different, version than I was when I was using, like my kids, this is in these, 3.5, almost 4 years, I'm totally different. They grew up with someone totally different. I'm a completely different person than my husband married over 20 years ago, because even then, if I wasn't using, I mean, I was using, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't lying, and it was, you know, I don't know, it was a different time of using. It was still today, I'm that much different, you know? And and if it wasn't for all these steps and these tools, along with lots and lots of self-examination, who would I be? So it's like, even when it's hard, I know that it benefits my family and the people around me too, when I can sit there and kind of think about how I did something, and the good stuff, I mean, all of it. You can't just like focus on the negative and only focus on the good, because you're not going to be able to grow unless you can see it for what it is. And in return, a better version of you comes out.
Bro, you're setting the tone for generational change in your family. You understand?
Yeah,
Your whole family,
yeah,
you've talked about how your whole family's been wrapped up in this thing. If you could be the
yeah,
cornerstone of changing this thing up. Look, I have my kids are raised up in this program. They know a healthy way to combat
yeah,
outside influences. That you could change the whole shit up for your family. Like talking about like hundreds of years from now, your family could be completely different because of you.
yeah.
You
Well, and I
never
think
know
it's
how
like a
far you're going to
different
stretch.
aspect of it, because like I always say, like when I
And
do
why
like a
not?
share, I was born an addict. I was raised by an addict, and today I am a recovering addict. And my kids know addiction from either be the outside or family because it's thick. I get to show them recovery because that's the other aspect to this disease is the recovery to it. And I hope that I make a change in the way that
You already have.
my
You already have,
my
man.
family has gone because enough is enough, you know. Yeah, definitely. I'm grateful to show my kids recovery.
And you're laying a blueprint. I'm not trying to go off on a tantrum here, but like you're laying a blueprint for you and your family, the people around you that have families that like, hey, because the way I thought about it was, hey, if you're an addict, right, and you have children, why would you expose them to the drug life? That's how we kind of think, right? No, 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 it's totally different. Like
Yeah.
I'm showing by and leading by example of how I live as a human and as their mother and their caretaker now. And I'm showing them every day. Milan says this all the time. You can't tell a kid how to act, what to do. You got to
Yeah.
show them how to do
You
it,
gotta
man.
show
You
You
them.
got to
lead by
lead
Yeah.
by
example.
example. Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, you
It's huge.
do. You really do. I worked not like each step, but the steps in the program with my daughter when she was struggling with self-harm and suicidal ideation. And she just recently hit 3 years of no self-harm. And if I didn't have the tools that I got from this program and the activists and her seeing me dive into my recovery and seeing it working,
Mhm.
like I mean, it chokes me up a little bit. Like
I got
it's
goosebumps.
so
I got
grateful.
goosebumps.
I do too. I do too.
I can't. It's crazy,
You know,
man.
and
It's crazy.
it's what this program has done. And it's, man, yeah, that was a good tangent though.
I'm coming to you, Milan. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like get off that. I thought that was really good stuff, though. So,
Yeah.
all right. So it's my question to y'all, right? Or
Yeah, yeah. You got to ask me the question you just asked Brandi.
yeah, okay. I was on to so. All right, cool. So, in what ways has self-examination helped me change how I treat others?
So, if you notice below, I rebranded myself when you asked this question, El Blame Alito.
Saw
And
that.
because before
Blame Alito.
before self-examination, I blame Alito, all you guys. Like every problem
That's
in my
funny.
life
That
was
is good.
because of you. You
I
know,
thought I
like
was a nickname
Yeah.
guy. You're the nickname guy,
Yeah.
bro. You
That's
got it.
great. That is great.
I was the master of not taking credit for my problems. You know, like seriously, I was, you know, I was, you know, Brandy mentioned delusions earlier on this episode. I had created such ironclad delusions that my addiction was your fault. You know, like
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I was using because you pissed me off, Andrew. And Brandy, you know, like you made me sad. And like, you know, if Mikey A was here, Mikey and I were celebrating his birthday and he had a 52 birthdays a year. Like, you know,
Yeah.
and it lasted a week long. You know,
Oh
like
man.
and I just never looked inside. So, you know, it changed everything because now, you know, do people still piss me off? Yeah. Am I trying to surrender some anger? Hell yeah. But I realize that that anger is my perceptual problem now.
Mm.
You know, like I understand, even if I can't act on it in accordance to what I want to, I'm at least aware now that all this is a lack of surrender and acceptance on my part.
Mm.
And that was just never at all like, man, I was ready for that line of apologies, man. I was like, ooh, so stoked for step four. I'm like, quick, Andrew, you get by the door. Randy,
Yeah.
you put the big rope out because we're gonna have two rows here, and then we don't want them mixing up. And
Yeah.
single file line, no butting, no repeating, and you know, but that's not the case. The case is now is that I understand where my problems are and that, you know, I'm a work in progress. But it's also brought to me like a level of compassion that didn't exist before. You know,
Mm.
like
Yeah, that's
there's
good.
something that you learn in psychology called the observer expectancy effect, right? Like, and when something happens to you, you think it's the world that's causing your problem. But when you see somebody else have a problem, you think it's because of a mistake they made. It's a human genetic built into people. Like you have to fight that. And so
That's
like
good.
and so what it is now is that, like taking that and breaking it apart and saying, no, it's not their fault, their problems all the time. Like just taking that instant condemnation of their character. I'm trying to deconstruct that. Is
Mm-hmm.
that, it's just different. And, but like anything, the more rested I am, the more I am on my program, the more I'm exercising, the more I'm eating right food. I'll tell you, man, 2 hours after eating sugar, I can be a jerk. Like just like that. Like it's
Yeah.
like a little baby, man. And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck just happened there? I'm like, why did I even react? And I was like, oh, I had that treat a couple hours ago. Like it's amazing how shit like that controls my frame of mind.
Hmm.
And so, being aware of that and trying to reduce it, maybe having an extra steak instead of a candy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We don't
Yeah.
like jerk face Milan, man. Get rid of that dude.
Get him
Man.
out of here.
I gotta
Dude.
say, I loved how you shared about like how we look at other people and like how they're acting. That's the one thing that's amazing about the program and like looking for similarities because
Mm,
we can relate. Even if we tried to judge before and now being in that position, we can relate. Like now that I've accepted and acknowledged and surrendered, I have more sympathy for people that I would be like, oh, I'm happy I'm not like them. And now it's
mm.
like, I know what you're going through right now. I know exactly what you're going through and I feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
I
nothing
love
nothing
that.
like a good old me too. You know what I mean? Like,
Right? Oh yeah.
you know.
I gotta make a shirt that says me too. I'm fucking not even
Look,
joking.
hashtag Me Too movement, but like on the like I put that in
Straight up.
I think we're far enough past that whole thing so we can make those as
Yeah.
t-shirts now. So
But people are
Right.
going to think you're wearing an old shirt.
I know. So it's
I swear they will.
every time I put it in our
That's
meeting in the
funny.
chat, I always like put it up and I like wait to see if I'm
I
gonna get a
know.
bad response. But like I usually put it in the sub comments, and people know where I'm at.
Yeah. Right.
All
That's
right,
funny.
so do I have to answer my own question? I can't remember.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You
Yep.
goddamn gotta do.
So,
Yeah, that's
in
right.
what ways has self-examination helped me change how I treat others, guys? This is a big one, man. Very, very important to me. It has made me a more compassionate and less judgmental person. You know, if I'm constantly looking inwards, I'm not worrying about that outwards. My sponsor says this to me: if you're worrying about other people's issues, you're actively working towards a relapse. If you're working on your issues, you're working on recovery. You're in active recovery.
Yeah. I like that.
So before I really was able to look at myself, I used to offer advice based on ego. Right, I'm offering advice to people based on ego, and that's not what this program is about. It's not. First
Mm-mm.
off, we're not offering advice. We're just giving suggestions, and we're trying to get rid of that ego because we know, as
Your
we all
ego is
know,
not your amigo.
no, it's not, and that bitch is edging God out every time. And then what happens? We get a hold of that big self-will platter of scrambled eggs, and we're like, yeah, we'll eat it. We're good. We'll take that self-will back. We don't need it, man. We don't need it.
Right.
So I thought I had the answers based on ego and pride, right? But through working the steps, specifically 4 and 10, there's my 4 is my extensive, my 10 is my daily. It showed me my own flaws, man, my own fears and patterns. And what that did, and this is where it makes it so important. I realized at that point I wasn't more important than anybody else.
Mm.
I don't mean anything. I am nobody. I'm nothing sauce in this whole thing, right? Like I am just another person, another addict trying to get help and
You
healthy.
are an
Right?
ingredient.
I'm just another addict doing the work. And you're
Yeah.
not gonna get anywhere if you don't doing the work, right? The shit that happens to me is right. I can become more of a listener than a fixer. I don't need to be such a fixer. I need to listen. You know what I mean? I need to listen, and then I can also learn a lot when I have a lot to say and I don't say anything at all.
Yeah. Yeah. The program has taught me that.
Bro, I can learn a lot. A lot. Don't just jump into solutions right away. Right? Don't jump into solutions right away. Instead, try to share your experience. Listen, not don't share your opinion, share your experience. Very different.
Yes.
Right? Don't share your opinions, your experience, right? Because that helped me realize that recovery doesn't come from being right. It comes from being real. Recovery doesn't come from being right. It comes from being real. You got to be real with us. If you're not real in these meetings,
Real
we know it.
recovery.
Real
Yeah,
recovery.
real recovery.
Recovery.
I
So
like
remember that. Real help and recovery doesn't come from being right. It becomes from being real. And self-examination, and I'll end on this. It allows me to keep my motives in check. Got to keep my motives in check, right? In a way, I want to be of service, or do I want to be of service, or do I want to be in control? Right? That's what I got to look at. Do I want to be the chair of this meeting because I want to be big macho and let everybody know that I'm in charge? Or do I want to be of service to the group and not even give a shit what my name is on the top of that banister?
You want to be right, or you want to be happy?
Happy. Do you want to be right, or you want to be happy?
Yeah.
Right.
I
it's
really
up
want
to
to be
you.
happy. I've decided, like, right,
Yep.
right, like in the middle of a fight with someone, right, sucks. It's a lonely, dirty little place to be.
Right. That kind of awareness allows me to show up for other people in a healthy way. Right.
Mm-hmm.
The one that supports their recovery, and I want to be known as like someone who is into recovery and not feeding into my ego. Right. I want to be feeding into recovery. I want to be feeding into the next person coming in here, the newcomer, because I'm told, Brandi, I cannot keep all these beautiful things I have in my life if I don't give it away.
Yep.
So I strap myself with Super Soaker 2.0, 2.3, 2.5, and I'm spraying it all day, man. You know what I mean? Like I'm putting out fires all day with my Super Soaker, man, because I got look, love will win every time. I don't care how big your house fire is. If I come in through with a Super Soaker full of love, that shit gets dissipated immediately.
Yeah.
It does. Love's the strongest drug in the world, most powerful word in the world. Tell somebody you love them today. I changed their life.
I love you guys.
Love you. Okay, Brandalita, you got a question for me?
Brandalita, freeze down, Brandizzle.
That's right. All right. So how does it affect me and others in my life if I don't practice self-examination?
Well, first of all, if I didn't start practicing self-examination, I probably wouldn't be straight. So, I'd be dead and they'd be mourning my loss. That would be the first effect,
Yeah.
But if I just, say I rolled into complacency right now, 100% complacency, stop my program, because that's what it would take for me to stop being to stop examining myself right now. I would have to stop my program. And then what would start to happen was I'd start to get restless, irritable, and discontent, and generally I'd probably slide a little bit, if not fully, back to the blame Alito, game Alito. I really would be wondering, I wouldn't be able to own my part because I wouldn't be looking at things very deeply. Imagine a world without self-examine. You say something to me, I'm just like coffee responding. Fuck you. Fuck that. I wouldn't be like, is this going to hurt her? Should I be acting with compassion? Like there wouldn't be anything but like a snap response that I think, I think it would be a real devolution in me if I stopped self-examining. It would completely roll back, and I would be surprised if I would still be straight after, any amount of time. I'd probably hang on white knuckling for a couple of years. I've already done that before. Look at me, unhappy. Here we go. But that's not who I want to be. Yeah.
You say devolicious? Did I hear that word?
Devolicious. It's decovery. It's when you're devolving in your recovery.
Decovery.
I got some decovery, man. I'm going backwards in my program.
Taking my recovery and going backwards and going home, man.
All right, man. I ain't looking at myself. I'm looking at you.
You know where I live, but don't come see me. Don't talk to me.
Yeah.
I'll take that question again, Britt Friedel.
All right. How does it affect me and others in my life if I don't practice self-examination?
Oh, wow. My thing is I got to stay on this upward trajectory, man. So I'm going to stay with what works. So if that were to stop, or if that were to change, or if I were to not do that the same way, because it's been working for I'm a couple weeks out from 3 years. I'm not gonna say it. I'm wanged out too. I got PMS like a motherfucker right now, man. You know what pre and PMS is, right? Earnest examiner, Ernest,
yeah.
Ernest examiner.
You're
are
funny.
we at the morgue? Am I about to get split open and examined from the inside out right now? What's going on? What was I saying?
Great.
What was I saying? I have no idea what I was saying.
PMS.
Oh yeah, but before that.
No, it was the PMS. You hadn't gotten to the point
I
of
have
what it
no
is.
idea.
That was great.
Well, oh yeah. So if I'm not, if I were to have not been practicing and coming in here, I would obviously we wouldn't even be sitting here. I wouldn't even be on this podcast right now. But if I were to have changed that, and if it were to change in any way, man, I'm gonna find myself on the outside looking in, man. I'm gonna find myself trying to adapt this program to my life, which we all know it doesn't work, man. We gotta adapt the program to our life. No, the other way around. I'm gonna try to adapt the program in little ways to my life, and my life's gonna take over every time. I'm a disease will eat that portion for lunch. I have to literally take my life and adapt it to the program. And you look, people will let you down. Like, people are flawed. We are all flawed, right? We all put our pants on the same way every day. We all make different decisions, and sponsors are just they're just other addicts. But it's about taking responsibility for our problems today, man.
Yeah.
And looking inwards, it allows us to confront our behaviors and our patterns, as opposed to being this, a lot of people come on and they don't, they say, we need to do this. This is how you need to do this. And it's a lot. Like we hit on it earlier. We're not giving advice here. This is not advice. This is not a program of self-improvement. This is a program of what?
Surrendalido.
Thank you. we are not showing up to class every morning and writing the 110 things that we think that we don't like about ourselves and how we're going to work on those things in the self-improvement class. We surrender to the God of our understanding, and we work this program wherever we're at in this program. You know what I mean? We're not here paying to be leaders of businesses. We get that. We get all that. I mean, I got people in my life that are in this program that have built companies and houses, JJ, from the ground up, and employ 30, 40, 50 individuals and handle his shit, man. And he's in his serene. He's not all wanged out. That dude is calm, cool, collected.
Ooh, he's cool cat. He's like smooth like silk.
Yeah.
Bro, you talk about serene.
Cool cat.
All I need is a picture of JJ. And Trey J, Team Trey J.
Trey J.
So without being honest and continuing with that process of being honest, I will fall back into my cycles of denial, blame, avoidance, isolation, whatever you want to call it, degradation, depression, everything. And then I'll find myself edging God out. My pride will come back taking over. And what does pride stand for, Brandi? One of the primary reasons I die early.
Yes.
Don't let that shit happen, man. Your pride is not worth you being in a casket, bro. When you're in a casket, your pride don't look that cool, man. Your pride ain't cool when you're in a casket. You're not flexing on anybody with that pride and ego. Not here. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So I gotta stay doing that. I gotta stay tapped into my triggers and come on and talk about my triggers, not about how I think that yours are the same as mine and how you should fix that, right? I'm telling them the same thing, but I'm just doing it in a way where, like, you take this as you need it, and you got to be in a position to receive it, not for me to cram it down your throat.
Yeah.
Because
this is what I did.
It's got to be my idea. As an addict, it's got to be my idea. Or I ain't listening to nothing. So, that great question.
Yeah, I could have lost everything and still used. So it had to be a choice. It's like common sense to not use, right? But I was like, but I'm just going to use it again one more time.
It's the easy way out.
Yeah. It has to be our choice for sure.
Got to stay concentrated on the last one, not the first one. It's easy to go out of here thinking about that first one's all fun and all that shit. But then where you're at, you're sitting in the room like naked. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Play the tape to the end.
Play it through.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. That's important. That's really important. Okay. So how does not practicing self-examination affect me and others in my life? Man. Well, without self-examination, a lot of that is early on, obviously an active addiction, and early on before I'm realizing that it's an inside job. kind of like how you touched on, Andrew, like I will revert to feel bad for me, guilty. This is why, excuses, justifications, delusion. It'll be all the reasons on why I do the stuff that is unhealthy that I see now today. And so it's so important for me too, because like I know for a fact, I don't care how far I've gone, I have room to grow. I always do. And if I don't continue to self-examine myself, I'll get into a hard spot. I'll let bad habits start to pile up. Because a lot of times I don't realize it's like that until afterwards. Like, I probably shouldn't be like that. I probably should do that differently. Or even like, wow, that worked really good. I should do it again like that. So if I don't take that time to examine myself, like I was saying in the other question, like, what part of me are you going to get? So if I don't work on myself, my family really does, and people around me really don't get the best side of me. Not that they get it all the time, but I mean the genuine side, should I say, like the real, true me. And whether it's working in a process or not, like this is like all the cards are on the table. If I don't examine, I'm going to start putting cards away, and I'm going to start like, duplicating them to look better. It's important to be self-aware, because I'm an addict and I can fall into things easily. I can fall into character defects easily today, even. Like I thought when I got clean, all character defects were gone, and I would be me, like no lying, no
the drugs were the problem, right? The drugs were the problem.
Yeah. I thought that's how it was going to be until I was getting to step 6, 7. I was like, wait, what? That is an issue. I didn't think I'd still be doing that.
Say this load is not lightning yet. What the fuck
yeah. So I had to work on that stuff, and I wouldn't be able to acknowledge that kind of stuff even today, because even though I've been through the steps, doesn't mean I don't have character defects. I have to be able to examine myself. And before, when I didn't practice self-examination or surrender, or any of all that beautiful stuff that goes along with it, really, it affected my family so much. It affected the people that were in relationships with me, my friends. To this day, some people still can't believe that I was in the closet meth user for 10 years. And I was, the church going, I went to, I was functioning in their eyes until the end. I really couldn't hold my shit together anymore. But, like that's the version they're going to get, even if it's not right away like that, eventually, because I got to be honest with myself when something's not right, like little lies, that's a big thing. Like I need to examine, like, what should I have said it like that? And when I speak to people, like it helps me because, I got this newfound, like, honesty too. It's not always the right answer though. Like, if I'm going to tell someone something, is it to help them? Is it to hurt them? Is it to make me feel good about myself? Is it to make them feel good about themselves? Like, those are the things I think that also benefit from it, because there's been times I would have just told you, I think you're stupid,
You're just stupid.
That would hurt no matter what. I get that. But like, sometimes it just don't need to say something. And I think I've been able to process things inside on how to relate them outside, and when it comes to in my relationship, in my marriage, man, self-examination is a huge one, because I don't know if anyone could piss you off more than your spouse. I don't care how much you love them. I mean, my husband, he can say something to me and I'm like, okay. And then someone else says it. And I'm like, do you know what they just told me? This is so cool. He's like, I said that to you already. Like, and I'm like, maybe you just had to come in someone else's voice. I don't know. I don't know.
You're boring, man. You're boring.
Yeah. And so it's like, when it's like that too, it's helped me kind of realize, like how I want it to go and how I want that person to feel. Instead of like, I'm right. This is what I think is right. And instead it's like, how can we find this middle part? Like maybe what you're saying is right. My husband says it's a curse to always be right, because that's his problem. Damn it.
He needs some self-examining.
Yeah, he does. He really does. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I think that was, it's important. It may be self-examination, but it affects more than ourselves.
Absolutely.
Way more than ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, Andrew, how do you use self-examination on a regular basis to understand your triggers and prelapse emotions?
That's a great question. I mean, it kind of ties in everything we've been saying. You know, if I'm constantly examining myself, what it does, and if I, if I'm looking inward I gotta look in with, and here's where courage and humility come into my plate, man. Gotta have courage and gotta have humility to begin to recognize those triggers. That's the only way I'm gonna recognize them is being humble about it, and then being very courageous because the triggers, they can come in a lot of different avenues and a lot of different
Mm,
ways, man. They can come in a really deceptive way that you really don't know they're happening, or they could come in this powerful, like, shit, somebody close to us dies. That's a trigger.
mm,
That's like a holy shit. Like, what do I do? Like, I don't know how to act right now. And then what am I going to do? Am I going to go to my program? Am I working a program? If not, the easiest thing in my brain is going to be to do is to go back to that DOC or something close to. If I'm not working a program, especially somebody really close to us dies or something like that. Like, if I'm not working
mm,
a program, that's one of those lifeline triggers that'll kill you, man. Things will kill you. Um, survivor's guilt,
mm.
that kind of thing comes into play where like we have people in our meetings that maybe lost their twin sister and they think that they should have been the one that are got her gone. Like, they
Yeah,
struggle with that, man.
yeah,
My heart goes out to those people, man. It goes out to those
yeah.
people. So taking responsibility for my actions will allow me to truly, truly, truly understand the emotional and spiritual wounds that I have. And then what I can do is I can come in here and share about it, and then I can get some feedback from my peers, man. And then that's where I get my answer. You know what I mean? But I have to be in a position to hear the message. It's not on the person giving the message to give the message to me that I need to hear. It's about me being there to receive it. And I'll pass it to you, Brandi.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep. All
Brandy,
right, read
how
it
do you
again.
use self-examination on a regular basis to understand your triggers and prelapse emotions?
Um, definitely for me, like, because I didn't realize I mean, I've heard of triggers, but I never took them seriously. And, the pre-relapse or relapse prevention kind of stuff. But a lot of it comes from me being able to, to examine and acknowledge like what would trigger me, for definitely, like how Andrew was saying, like a loss and a major loss, and I've been through that since being in recovery and without realizing it then, but knowing now that there was a lot of self-examination to get me through it, that man, I would not even be here with my family right now. And because first with my mother-in-law, and so I was there. I mean, she was my mom too, my best friend, but there was a certain role to it. And then when I lost my grandma, it was like a different, it was totally different. I was worthless, really. But I knew through both of those that what I would have done if and how I would have been not present and emotionally, physically, if I'd been using. So to be able to like at the time, I wasn't thinking about a self-examination, but in this conversation, I can see it as that. Like I know that I can't that going other ways and doing things that I maybe would have thought I would have done in the past that would have only been a band-aid at the least. Well, isn't what's going to work. It's not a long-term solution, and I try to look at that when it comes to any actions or thoughts or anything that's like a triggers or whatever. Was this a long-term solution, even if the long term is just the end of the day? So but it's not like I'm thinking like 20 years down the road, is this going to work? Like today it's going to work, and it's something I could probably do tomorrow too. And that's a big one. And when it comes to, I had to just really, but people, places, and things, like I had to look at that kind of stuff, and I still do. It's hard to uh it's hard to change people's and places and things when it's family. But I had to, not even thinking about my family members' active addiction and their problems and their disease and how they accept it. I had to think about myself. Like this is when I got to just think about me and self-examining. Like not necessarily how it's going to affect my mom, that I don't have a relationship with her anymore. How does this affect me and my recovery? and how I'm going to perceive myself. Like, you know, because I have, and in any moment, you know, could be that other Brandi, could be that selfish addict that doesn't really care anymore and just wants to get high. Like that person's still there, but without being able to self-examine and change things and be aware of pre-relapse, man, I don't know. Like it's a thing that I'm grateful to be able to struggle with, you know, like I'm grateful that I can be aware of that, because you were talking about earlier on in the meeting or the podcast that you know, like I didn't know what pre-relapse was, like relapse prevention, but I mean, they talked about it in treatment a little bit, but when I got with my sponsor, that was a big one. Like, you know, I didn't know that, like when I picked up my DOC after 10 years, I thought it was a split second decision. It sure as hell was not. It wasn't, because when I used, that was the end of my pre-relapse. Like that was the beginning of the, you know, or the end of my relapse, I guess you'd say. It was so much before that. And so when it comes to, I got to be able to see everything and be able to change things, even if it doesn't seem like it would be an issue right now. But let's just think about it. Like it's probably going to be, and especially if it has been in the past, because I've tried to change things on my own so many times, and I've learned that my way doesn't work, and I'm learning new ways, and that's definitely looking at myself.
Absolutely.
Love you,
Good question.
I love that. Okay, how do I use self-examination on a regular basis to understand my triggers and prelapse emotions? So, like I was saying earlier, we kind of we did a lot of insight on that and work on that in like, there was a couple of the days of exercises that we did inside the treatment center. And honestly, I feel like it was such a valuable part of things for me because like I said earlier, like, the delusions and, the fact is that if I'm having an emotion, my first sponsor used to say, emotions are 100% real, but the facts they're based on might not be.
I like that.
Uh,
I do too.
it's so true in the sense, I mean, he just celebrated 10,000 days. So he's doing something
That's
right.
cool.
Yeah.
That's
That's
awesome.
cool.
And, but the thing is that for me, what I really learned was that I was creating or amplifying emotions in order to have the fuck it mindset. And so that's what I have to watch for. Like if I'm having a day where I'm really getting angry, am I tired? Or is that my addiction just lying to me about
Yeah.
everything that's happening? And the same in any other direction, because I kind of had delusions to enable me to use with every single emotion out there. Like every single one. It was like
Even
whether
the
it was
happy ones.
yeah, like whether well, especially the happy ones were like woohoo, guilt free. The other ones, I somewhere deep inside knew I was wrecking someone's day to do it,
Mm.
you know, and they didn't feel that good. So that means I would just double up on the quantities and try to kill myself more,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and but so I really use self-examination in order to try and unravel my motives on stuff.
Mm.
And also, like what is not even the motives, but what are the causes for my discontent or my irritability? Like, is it a physical one? Is it an emotional response from trauma? Is it just me playing my role? Like, want to have an argument with my sister or my mother or whatever? Like,
Mm.
am I just playing a cycle because that's what we do? Like, because there's times, like so many years and so many relationships where I'm like, whoa, hold on. Like, I'm not even choosing how I'm reacting here. I'm literally just like, enter the part. Here's your script, Milan. You are the angry
Yeah.
son today. Oh, and here, you're the pissed off husband. Oh, why don't you be the non-understanding father
Man.
next? But I'm like reading the script and I'm doing this. I'm like, I do not even share the opinion of the person I'm portraying, you know.
Yeah, that's
Okay, I'm just like, what the heck is happening here? And so sometimes, but it takes that self-examination. And without
hmm
that, I am for sure role playing. I'm for sure
Yeah.
role playing in what I think I'm supposed to do, because most of the time I'm like, what am I doing? You
You're in a
know, like,
video
Yeah.
game, man. You're in a video game.
yeah,
Yeah,
I am a
right?
video game. Okay, so now I've got to leave for work in 19 minutes. So what I want to do
Hmm.
is, with the rest of our questions, I want to do a perpetual 1 minute lightning round till we get there.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Everybody in?
Ooh.
Yeah. No,
I
Yeah.
love the lightning round.
yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, here we
Who's
go.
starting? Who's starting off with questions?
You start off with the questions
Yep.
because
Okay. All right.
we just,
Yep.
yeah,
So we
Yep.
just share for 1 minute?
yeah, like
Share
I
for
got
1
the
minute?
timer.
Okay.
You're
Yep.
gonna see the
All right.
timer. Come on.
Okay.
Andrew
Y'all
will
ready?
ask, then I
Yep.
start the timer.
I'm going to you,
Okay.
Brandi. How
Okay.
long has regular self-examination improved my relationship with my higher power?
Oh, so much because I'm able to look at myself in order to know what I'm missing and know what he's always been able to provide for me. And so if I can sit there and put things aside and look at what I know I need to work on and what I'm grateful for, definitely, because I need to put a lot more into that gratitude also. But my relationship with my higher power is only getting stronger and stronger than it's ever been. And I got to really look at myself to be able to do that because I hid from my higher power. I put bricks up. I'd put two up. He'd take three down, but I kept putting more up. Just kept putting more up. So the acknowledgement of my rights and wrongs and how I want things to be, how I don't want things to be, has helped me lean on my higher power a lot more than I ever did before. Look at that. I got like 5
Look at that
seconds.
perfect time and
Boom.
ding ding ding. All right, I'm asking you,
Okay,
Milan.
I'm
So
ready. I'm ready.
how has regular self-examination improved your relationship with your higher power, Mr. Milan?
Okay, to start off with, I had no relationship with my higher power. So it started with the initial realization that I was powerless. Without that powerlessness, I was perpetually thinking I was the one pulling the entire strings of the universe. That first surrender gave me that little sprinkle of faith, but a ton of hope. So that first self-examination created hope and faith inside me in different degrees. The further self-examination of my step 4 showed me exactly what I needed to surrender, and that I wasn't the one who could do it on my own. So through that another self-examination regularly, what I see is what has worked and what has not, and what I see not working is when I'm in self-will. So it's strengthened my belief and my faith that I need to let more shit go in order to be happy. How free do I want to be?
Yeah.
Surrender free.
Ooh, sizzle. All right, I'm gonna ask myself the same question. What does regular
Yeah.
self-examination help my relationship with my higher power? Well, look, man, it's really everything, man, because I was able to finally let go of that dishonest person that I was, man. I was able to be honest with myself that I'm not it. I'm not this dude. I'm not the guy that made this whole thing go on. So when I was able to do that, I'm most willing to let go of that dishonesty. It hurts too much to live out of alignment, guys. You know what I mean? We've been living out of alignment for a long time, man. Your car when it's all you got to go get it aligned. Like that's what we've been living. We've been living all jerky, herky jerky. Now I'm aligned, man. I'm aligned with that higher power, and I understand that if I get ungrateful at any point in my day, I have in a sense taken some of that self will back. Whether he handed it to me and he tried to trick me by giving me some midday or whatever, but I give it right back to him, man. I get really comfortable in prayer, man. I'm so fucking comfortable in prayer. But what happens is with my relationship to him, I'm not fearful anymore. He's given me faith. I have faith in my life. Faith trumps fear every single time. And when fear comes to the door and you can answer with faith, fear's gone, man. It's gone.
Okay, Brandi, you got a free now. You got a question for me?
All right, I do. I got notes and I'm just going to throw this out there. Why
Yeah.
is it so important for you to acknowledge your part in something?
Boom. It's so important for me to acknowledge my part because I am the only thing that I have influence on in the entire universe. People, places, and things I do not. If my entire perception or my entire emotions are based on your actions, then I am forever your puppet for my entire life. The only way to freedom is from just letting it go, not trying to change the world. Acceptance and surrender are the keys to the kingdom. And if I try at all to place myself in your hands, I'm now going to have an expectation that you are supposed to do something with me, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. And then I'm living in resentment instead of living in freedom. So surrender for the win. Boom.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I'll take it.
All right, all right. Why is your part so? What did I say? Why is acknowledging your part so important? I don't know if I said it like that. But.
Yeah, well, acknowledging my part is I mean, it ties in with honesty. Because a lot of times I will reflect my problems outwards. I will reflect my problems outward. So it allows me to confront the underlying cause of my behaviors and understand that I got to stop blaming everybody for why I'm here, man. It's not because of you why I'm here. It's not because society beat me down, right? I just didn't handle it in the right way. I got to understand that my circumstances got me here. Nobody else's. So if I'm gonna come in here and start throwing that blame game all over, I mean, I'm just back in my old addict behavior, man. That avoidance, isolation, But the true healing comes when we can really look inward. It takes a lot of courage to look inwards, right? Not just bits and pieces, but to really take everything that you got inside and to bring it out and to put it out on the floor, and to take responsibility for my actions. But that's when I can really tap into that emotional and spiritual issue that I have, is when I'm able to do that. Thank you for the question.
Boom.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. And me. So why is it so important, my part, to acknowledge it? Because acknowledging my part alone, it definitely helps with control issues, because I cannot control anybody else. I can't make them do things differently.
Sorry.
You're a dork. And really, when it's like I've tried to control a situation or whatever's going on, or conversation, even if I just take it back to what my part is, first it takes a lot off of me, even though I'm putting it on myself only. And I remember going over amends with my sponsor, and she was saying it's important to do these amends because you don't want to be going down the road somewhere and you see this person, you haven't made amends to them, you need to. And it's kind of like it's all brought up again. Like just get it out there. Like this is what your part is, and this is what you did. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I visualize keeping my side of the street clean. I'm just don't worry about sweeping over here because it's all I can control. I can't control if you don't clean your shit.
Yeah. And if you do that, you can meet the neighbor up straight up. You don't owe him $20. They didn't blow it. They didn't blow into your yard, right? All right. My question. Ready?
Even after we get straight, our problems that we run from are still there. How has self-examination helped you identify and surrender these defects of character? Andrew Norman.
I thought I answered that question. Ask me that again, because I thought you're asking yourself. I'm a retard.
No, even after we get straight, our problems that we run from are still there. How has self-examination helped you identify and surrender these defects of character?
That's a great question. I can meet myself where I'm at today, man. I can meet other people where they're at. It kind of ties in with what Brandi just said. If I keep my side of the street clean, I'm not worrying about, my bushes are not growing over into Brandi's property. I'm not going to have to worry about her sending her dog over into my yard, right? Like, I got to keep my side of the street clean. It's all about self-examination. I'm not doing anything for anybody else if I'm not leading by example, right? And it's not about me trying to be perfect. You can't be perfect. No one's perfect. It's about how I deal with my imperfections is how it inspires other people. Does that make sense? So if I can stay tapped into who I am in my imperfections, and I'm not trying to make myself perfect by any means. I'm just trying to work on these things that I'm told are positive aspects that will come out to positive, answers when I practice them. And that's the spiritual principles. We work these steps. Step work ain't shit. It's the spiritual principles that you gain as a result of working the steps. If you work the steps, you don't know what spiritual principles are behind each step. You need to go back and do that step again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Brandi, even after we get straight, our problems that we run from are still there. How has self-examination helped you identify and surrender these defects of character?
Oh, man. I got to say real quick, too, this is how dysfunctional my family can be. When you say the word straight, my mom used to always tell me, don't go. I'm like, go straight driving. She's like, I'll leave all my friends. Like, I think about it, I'm like, that's so dysfunctional. So that's just my little side note. So to be able to examine myself and look at the defects that I have today, in the past, current, future, it's important. It's important for me to be able to do that too. I used to always say like, oh, you see what you get, or what you see is what you get. And I would say it, and that was a lie. It was always a lie because I wore so many different masks. And today, being able to, self-examine and surrender to my disease, like what you see is me. It's what you get. It is what it is. Even the uncomfortable stuff. Even when I say shit wrong and I realize later, like, I don't think that was really right. I'm learning, and I'm learning out front with everybody. So there you go.
Ooh, I love that.
So,
Okay, even
I love
after we
this.
get strict, our problems that we run from are still there. How has self-examination helped me identify and surrender these defects of character? Well, first of all, it was the only way that I identified them. Like there was no identification before self-examination. My self-examination before was like, do I got enough for today?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
now, getting straight, fighting with honesty, it showed me what I need to surrender. So then I work on my surrender, and then doing the regular moral inventories show me again how I'm progressing. And without that sort of constant reevaluation, if I'm not self-examining on a regular basis, I have no clue how I'm doing because
Yeah.
I'm not even calibrating. And it really shows me what I need to work on. And one of the beautiful things is that I get to be on a show like this with people I love who inspire me to look at other areas that I haven't. And
Yep.
so, self-examination is a perpetual thing. A little more some days, a little less others. Okay, Andrew, quick.
I got
you
one.
gotta-
Yep. Yeah,
Yep,
this is a good
ask
one.
him.
This is a good one.
Yeah,
So
this will
how
be the
how
last round.
how do I know
Okay.
when my spirit is unsettled and it's time to check in with myself?
Oh man, when it's unsettled, when the things that irritate me that wouldn't irritate me before, or like I find myself not being so patient. We'll just put it in the program on myself, not being patient with people that I know that like you know the answer to this. Like how many times does somebody have to tell you that? Like that's me. Like I'm sitting there being like trying to tell them, but really I just need to like look at myself and like, okay,
Uh,
this maybe I need to chill out a little bit
yeah.
and just see it for what it is and remember where you were in that moment that they're going through right now.
Mhm.
I find that when it's times like that, I definitely need to, or when I take my dog to the bathroom and he has to go poop twice and I get irritated. I know that I'm not spiritually fit at the moment.
And now we have self-awareness because you've been thinking about it for the past couple of weeks.
I too. I have. So yeah, that's important. So that was it. I'll give you 7
That's
seconds.
dope. All right, here we go. Here we go. Milan, you
Yep.
get a minute point 7. So, how do I know when my spirit is unsettled and it's time to check in with myself?
I begin acting out my character defects, like I'm getting angry. I'm catching myself holding my breath. It's something that I
Yeah,
realize
breathe.
when I'm like I'll be like, oh, and like that tenseness goes right through me, right to my soul. Like I flex.
Mm,
I will also be like, why is that dog taking so long to go to the bathroom? Like impatience. But
yeah.
those are all the defects. And I have to pull back. And I'm like, when I'm watching myself like a movie and not liking this character. Like I'm
Ooh, I
like
like that.
looking and
I like that.
I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. He's the guy that I want to get killed in the first scene. Like,
Ah,
yeah, like and I want to be the superhero. I don't want to be the
yeah.
villain, you know? As Rosa Metzler would say, nobody thinks they're the villain, and sometimes I do think I am.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's crazy.
I like how
Why
you
did the
said that.
why did the beep go off before the timer went off? That was crazy. That was
I
wild to me.
stopped it.
Anyway. Oh, okay. I'm like, God, what is going on? All right. So how do I know when my spirit is unsettled and it's time to check in with myself? Well, you hit it on every, a lot of times I stop breathing and we don't even know it. So I got to concentrate on that breathing. Our breathing controls our thoughts. A lot of times we'll get into a situation and we don't know it, but we tense up and we stop breathing. And if you concentrate on that breathing, it brings you back to the present moment. I'll hit on
Mm,
the halt, man. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired, man. If I'm in any of those lanes, if I'm hungry, if I'm angry, I'm lonely, I'm tired. I need to get out of those lanes. I got to provide myself with one of those simple things to get me out of my restless spot.
mm,
And then when I feel restless, and I'm starting to, when I feel restless, that's when I start knowing that I'm kind of that I got to check in. I got to check in.
Yeah.
With that being said, I started obsessing over little things, right? We're playing little conversations in my head, feeling irritated for no reason. It's usually my cue to come in and pause, pray, do a real quick inventory, hit step 10 on that bitch. Keep it moving. Keep that shit moving, man. You got to fly through that shit. Don't let that shit stack up. And then you got to do this big step 4, step not fuck all that shit, man. Daily inventory that bitch, and you'll be all right.
Yep. I like it.
I love the lightning round, by the way. The lightning round ending.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
So I love you guys.
I love y'all.
You know what? Tune in next episode for more recovery fun. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Please help us help others. If you like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.